Alright, let's finish the last segment of our goblet. We'll be making the base, and for that I want to start out with some thick rod. This is about 1.25 inch solid rod. What is that, about 32 millimeter. So anyway, it came out of the kiln, so it's already hot. I'm just going to drive a lot of heat into it, get it really molten, and to make the base is really simple with this. I'm just going to push it down onto a graphite pad like that one. You can use any big flat hand paddle to do this. I've even done it on wood. That works. Anyway, just driving the heat in here. We got to get this whole thing hot, and that's going to take a little bit. My largest torch, the one on top, which is National 6B with, I believe it's a 13-hole hush tip, so it breathes pretty well. It puts out quite a bit of flame for a small torch, but it's no Carlisle. Those are very nice torches. Kudos to those of you who have them. There we go, just driving the heat in. These make pretty nice bases, and I prefer them over the blown out flared ones, which are also fun to make, but these are heavy, and I like to put stuff on my center sections, and sometimes I'll even add materials and items to the goblet portion, and having a fairly heavy base is important to balancing it all out. I don't want it to become top heavy, and the more robust and the heavier it is, the better. Also, incidentally, I'm going to be stamping designs into this, flowers and leaves on the bottom, and working it. And I didn't do that at first. The first few I tried to make, they were unadorned, and I really had a problem with them cracking when I just made the flared out goblet foot and then did not adorn it. It tended to have a high loss rate. There we go. Push it down and then back it up on the edge, or flip the paddle over or whatever. And that's just the initial push. We're going to heat it up again and shape it a bit more. And even after texturing, adding in the flower and leaf designs on the bottom, I'm still going to reheat the whole thing and press it again. So we're not done with the shaping of it before we finish the stamping of it. There you go. It becomes a little bit wider and flatter with each pass at that. And then backing it up on the corner there, that kind of flares the thing down so that it's a little bit conical, and you actually have a void in the bottom that's set in. That's important. You don't want that bottom to be flat at this point. You want it to be up inside a curve. So I'm going to grab a flower stamp and heat up right in the middle, and that'll be the center. I'll just push a little flower design in there, and then we'll move out to the outside of the center there, and there we go. Put in some more flowers, probably 3 of them, equidistant, going around. There you go. Just a little bit of heat right into a specific location. You only want to heat up a shallow depth, but enough to press into. Okay, and we'll switch that one out for the leaf pattern. Push that in. So this will fill up most of the space, but there is a little bit of dead space in between, and when I push these in, they do displace some of the glass to poke up around it, which may interfere with it sitting flat. So to deal with both of those problems, I've got this little tool. It's basically an X-Acto knife or a screwdriver handle with the diamond texturing to give you a good grip, mounted on the end of a wooden handle with a rod through it. And it allows me to heat up a little area where that stuff was sticking up, and then just roll over it with that diamond texture. So we'll wind up with a nice crosshatch diamond pattern between the leaves and the flowers. So it's not just empty space, and we again return to making that bottom a little bit smoother. So here's a little punty come out of the kiln that's got a little tiny drop of gold on it, and we'll use that for the base color, just vaporizing it there, and it fumes up onto the bottom, gives it a nice cranberry color. Do this with very good ventilation. Please don't do it if you don't have good ventilation. Okay, that's enough on the gold. I think I'm going to add some silver to make the gold stand out. It's like having a primer and then putting another color over it, only kind of backwards because you're applying it in this direction but seeing it from the top. So just heating up a chunk of silver, 999 fine. And as soon as it fumes onto the bottom there, it'll reinforce the gold and make it more attractive. It seems to also work kind of like a flux and help the gold stay in place. Gold can rub off fairly easily after the glass cools and if you're handling it. But it seems that if there's a little bit of silver applied, I don't know what the physics are on this, but it does seem like a flux for the gold, and it helps it hold in place better. And now I'm just going around, a little bit of the fuming blows around the edges, and putting this really intense little hot flame right there on it burns off that accidental fuming on the surface, which we want to be clear so that we can see the design and the colors through the glass. And again, as I mentioned, we're going to go back and heat up the entire thing gently. We don't want to burn out our design completely. But we do want to soften things up and be able to flatten this and make sure that it does sit flat without rocking. So notice that the flame is on the back side. It's not on the stuff that we just stamped. Not yet. Now there's a good little bit, but not for as long. We don't want to melt that all out. We just want to get it soft enough that it becomes perfectly flat. Turn off that one, put on the little one to kind of see what happens here. Cool, and oh no, got a little bit of wobble. So reheat the whole thing and fix it. Flame off and check it again. Yeah, that feels good that way. And rotate it 90 and check it that way. Be sure that, as you rotate it around, it's still flat. There we go. I'll heat up the claws a little bit and grab that and put it in the kiln. Now don't stick the entire claw in the kiln. I just put in the fingertips and the item, so it's close to the door, and that metal wing nut that I've got there for locking and opening it is actually just on the lip outside, pointing down away from the heat, because I will want to use that in a few minutes and I don't want it to be 1,000 degrees, but I need to keep that base hot before I put it together with the goblet top and center section that's already made. There's the center section. We're going to add that to the bottom. Drop that into the kiln. Wing nut out. Grab another punty. And we're going to hook up to the top so that we can weld that center section to the base section. And this is a punty connection, not a weld. The difference being on the punty that I've left that acute angle and only pushed the material together without ever pulling it out any to smooth it out. That is for the purpose, of course, of just being able to tap it off easily. So there's our base section. I'll flip the arrowhead marver on its side That'll give me that little curved beveled area to cool and shape the weld. There we go, putting it together and rotating it, almost building up a little Maria right there. But I want to distribute the heat to both sides and get a really nice smooth weld going. And then as it cools, drop it there and marver a little shape into it. This is almost like working on a wood lathe, which is also a very fun tool. So just rotate it until it sets and is no longer at risk of bending. Tap that off. Yeah, and that's where we're going to weld up to the goblet top. Don't know why I'm fire polishing it right now, it's just a habit. So now back into the kiln with that whole assembly, and we'll take out the goblet top, which was the first part we made. Grab a second set of claws. Heat those claws up. They don't need to glow red, you just don't want them to be cold and chilly when they touch. I also like the claws that go inside the goblets and grab it, but these work fine. Get it straight before you cut it off, then right into the flame, cut it off just below. And clean up your rods while you're working. Don't leave blebs of glass and long stringy hairs and fish hook shaped things of glass on there. It's already hot. It takes less than a half a second to drop it down and rotate it and then put it away. So keep your work area clean as you go, and don't create those fragments of glass and broken bits sitting around and getting in the way and even getting into your lungs on occasion. So join the two together. I'm just going to keep up heat right there on the weld and rotate it around a few times, and then I'm going to marver it there. I want to create just a little bulge. And that'll do for a weld. I want to clean up the surface just a little bit. It's got kind of a little bit of a frosty appearance on it in a couple of spots. But overall, I think I like the combination. The top with the leaves and the branches goes really well with the center section with the mushroom and the gecko, and that coordinates equally well with the stuff on the ground. The piece just I find them pleasing. Go. Just cleaning up the surface and then rolling it on the marvering thing there to make sure that I haven't gone out of true. It's easy to put a little bit of more heat in there on accident and have the whole thing bend. So a little bit of heat on the surface, and then before it can move through and make the whole thing bend, onto the marvering pad and rotating. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit right there on that weld. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, as I hit 50, I've noticed that my eyes are not what they used to be for close-up, but now I need my bifocals. There we go. Anyway, that whole thing's together. It really ought to be placed upright. My kiln's a little bit short for that, but best to anneal them in the standing position. And there's some pictures of the finished up item. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the goblet, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.